Hi guys, welcome back to the Sullivan Pursuit. Today I'm going to do remote places versus touristy places and the pros and the cons of kind of going to both. I personally like doing both, but some people hate on people who only go to touristy places, and some people don't understand why other people go to remote places. So today I'm going to try and explain why I think both of them have pros and cons. So without further ado, let's start. Okay, so let's start with the touristy places. So a lot of people are like, I would never go to London. I don't want to go to Paris. I don't want to go to Rome. They're so touristy and overrun. But usually those places are touristy for a reason. Not always, but most of the time there's a reason. So I love London. I think one of the reasons that it is so great is because it does attract so many people. It's just a hustling, bustling city, and there's so much beauty and history there. Like the Big Ben, you have the London Tower. I just think it's gorgeous. Paris, a lot of people, I don't personally like Paris that much, but a lot of people love Paris. They think it's just such a romantic city. And you have the Eiffel Tower, which is just like an icon. Bali, people go there, tons of people go there. So like, I mean, you can't really like go wrong there. You have a beach, you have like partying, you have a lot of cool expats that you can relate to. I don't know. I think like touristy places definitely have their place. The other thing that's really cool about touristy places is that in a place like that, you already have like kind of set up tours, you know where you're going. You don't really have to worry too much about safety and planning because you already have everything set up for you. Hotels and hostels are usually really nice. They're very easy to get around. It's kind of like you already have an easy itinerary, if that makes sense. So going to touristy places kind of gives you the safety and the stability and also like the pre-known adventure that you can just kind of do whatever is around. Okay, so the cons I think of touristy places is you don't really get that local experience. Like there's just too many people from other places that it's very hard to like meet locals. Also, everything kind of is pre-planned, so it's hard to find like things that you want to like explore for the first time or like see that like not many other people have seen. So it's hard to stumble upon like new interesting things. So the other thing about places that are quite touristy is they've adjusted a little bit to fit the tourist rather than actually having their own culture. So there's the term like whitewashed. And so a lot of places have kind of become whitewashed in the fact where like when you go to like a really touristy spot like Cartagena, Colombia or something like that, like normally Colombians speak Spanish, not much English, but in Cartagena, everybody speaks English. The Cancun is very, very touristy and it's very English speaking. Like you lose a lot of the culture. They deal in dollars. So I think you, to experience like the real place, kind of need to get out of the touristy locale. So that's not to say that touristy places cannot have that local experience, and I'll get on that later. I just think it's a lot more difficult. So remote places are really awesome because you're always stumbling on new things. There's a lot of things that you can do by yourself, like, and usually it's just like taking a walk or going down the street and just like seeing what's there. I think remote places are really cool because you're kind of submerged into the local experience. So like when I was in Georgia, we stayed at guest houses the entire time. So it was like I was constantly with locals, with local families, eating local foods, etc. And that was like the normal thing to do. That wasn't like, I wanted a local experience, even though I did, but that was just like what you did normally in a place like Georgia, is you interact with a lot of the locals, like your tour guides are all from there. You can do a lot of stuff on your own without tours, and there's so many places to go. Public transportation is crazy, but so much fun. The major con for me of places that are a little bit more remote and not as touristy is lack of healthcare. That's the biggest thing. Like, for example, when I was in Georgia, I broke my tooth and I had to travel 40 hours to get to the capital to get a dentist to fix my tooth, and that was in one day. I think that like when you're traveling in a touristy place, you always have access to the best healthcare. You always have access to like anything you need, good police, etc. That's another thing. In remote places, you, especially places that don't speak English, which is almost everywhere, you aren't going to be able to communicate with police or anything, any sort of safety person. So if you get into trouble, it's a lot more of a tricky situation than if you were in, say, London or Italy. Like if you are in the middle of nowhere, Africa, the police aren't going to take your side. They don't know you. Like you are not part of their culture. So like you're a lot more at risk for bad things, I guess, or bribes. Or so when you're in a touristy place, I feel like everyone's kind of looking out for themselves, especially these big cities. Like there's not a whole lot of community. But when you're in a small place, like middle of nowhere Africa, or even like the small towns in Ireland, you kind of become part of the community, even if you're only there like very, very temporarily, and you feel like everyone tries to keep you safe. So that's really nice, because I think you could be quite anonymous in a big place, and if something happens, you're kind of screwed. But in like a remote place, as long as you're like interacting with the locals, you kind of become family. And so that's one thing that I think is really cool about remote places, regardless of safety, is just like becoming part of like the local culture and the community at any place remote is really, really cool. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you how I think you can do a local experience in a remote or in a touristy place. So if you're in, I know I keep saying London, let's do Rome, for example. So there's like a lot of things you can do to stay with locals. So you can do couch surfing, or you could do like a bed and breakfast or an Airbnb, and you can stay with a local and learn from them, especially couch surfing. And you can get that local experience. Try getting a language tutor that can help you learn the language. Going to local restaurants to get local foods, not just like the popular touristy. So like a lot of people go to Ireland and they're like, oh, I've lived the Irish life. Like I went to Temple Bar in Dublin. But that's not exactly like, that's visiting Ireland, but that's not seeing like the Irish culture. So for me, like when I went to Ireland, I preferred to like get out of the city, go over to a little town south of Galway, and stay with a local. And I loved it, and I felt like I really got a great experience there. So that's why I think you can still travel touristy places and feel like a local. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all the support. And always like, comment, share, subscribe if you like my stuff. Yeah, I'll see you soon, hopefully before next week. So yeah, thanks for watching.